Hello, it's Wilson Brown at the National Pint Centre down in the usual room 1 here, and welcome to the What's in a Tune series. And today, well, when I was thinking about it, there's obviously a huge number of tunes that I've played over the years, but the one I've really chosen today is called the MacNeils of Ugadale, and you wonder why is that important to me? Well, it was composed by Pipe Major John Mackenzie, who was my teacher. Started going to him when I was a wee boy, aged 8. Went down every week to Queen Victoria School, which is in Dunblane, and had lessons with John for 28 years. Probably had lessons every week between 8 and 19 when I left home, and every Monday night we'd go down there to John. And it's funny how these things develop. He went from being a teacher to a mentor to a friend. He saw me going from a wee boy into a man, joining the police, getting married, kids, and he was supportive, not just in my piping, but also in my personal life, and had a huge role to play in my life. And that's why the MacNeils of Ugadale means so much to me. It's probably one of his most famous tunes, and he's got a collection that he published many years ago. And that's the great man himself there. I think it's still available for sale, but I'm not too sure. But a lot of his good tunes are in this book. And his most famous probably is the MacNeils of Ugadale. And over the years when I was competing and doing a lot of playing, I always made sure if I was doing a recital or a BBC broadcast, then I always used to play the MacNeils of Ugadale as at least one of the tunes, usually along with Tugargan Gap, which is another of his famous 6/8 marches, which I would obviously recommend to anyone to learn it. So the MacNeils of Ugadale I think is an area down in Kintyre. John was from Kintyre, a native of Campbelltown, and he was a pipe major in the army with the Argyles. And then in 1963 he joined Queen Victoria School as a piping instructor. So probably one of the first professional piping instructors. And he was at the school for 24 years. So now I'm at the Piping Centre here in Glasgow, and I'd like to think that I'm trying to pass on many of the tips and the way he taught to my own students. He was tough but fair, and he made lessons enjoyable, and I think that's really, really important, and hopefully that's the way I conduct my lessons here. But as far as the tune's concerned, it's played by a lot of the top players, a lot of the pipe bands play it, and I would recommend anyone to go and learn it. When I'm passing along the corridors here, I often hear the strains of the MacNeils of Ugadale being played. Indeed, there's a bit in the tune that was always interesting, because many players in pipe bands play a certain part of the tune differently from the way that John had written the tune. And it used to annoy him sometimes when he would hear it and he went, that wasn't the way I played it. However, the tables were turned when he listened to me playing it on a broadcast in the BBC, and he said, that was really great, you played my tune. He said, but I didn't play it with that Dublin in there. And I thought, all right, okay. But I put my own slant on it anyway. So I've got the collection here. I've actually got the music in front of me, not because I need the music to actually play the tune, but just in case he's watching, I want to make sure I get all the grace notes in at the right place. So here goes, and here's the MacNeils of Ugadale, and I hope you enjoy it. It's at times like these you wish you had Finlay MacDonald's circular breathing technique. So I'm a wee bit out of breath, however, just to point out the bit that used to annoy John. So when it gets to the end of the tune, a lot of people cut that C. The only place it should be cut is in the second time in the fourth part. However, I suppose that's the way it goes with tunes. We can put our own slant on it. And I know from experience, I haven't written too many tunes. I wrote one tune, and one of my students, Giovanni from Italy, was listening to me playing the tune I'd composed, at which point, when I finished, he said, "Wilson, you're playing the fourth part wrong." And I went, "How can I be playing it wrong? It's my tune." He says, "That's not the way it's written in the music." So I suppose John might have a wee chuckle to that there you go, I was playing my own tune wrong. But I suppose the main thing is if the tune's getting played, then that's a great legacy to the man himself. So he was a great teacher, a great player, and someone who everyone enjoyed his company. He always had a great story or two, and he always enjoyed when there was a huge company of pipers, and he would tell them tales of times gone by. So sadly missed, but with this tune and other tunes, and hopefully through my work here at the Piping Centre, his legacy lives on. And you know, hopefully at the end of this, you'll hear a clip from a BBC recording I did way back in 1988. You can tell it's that old by the standard of the recording. I got worried. I played it just yesterday, and my wife was here and listening to it, and she said, "Well, what's wrong with that recording?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "It sounds really old." At which point I just realised, yes, that's the way things are now. So it's a recording from 1988, and as I said, I always like to play that just in tribute to John. So I hope you enjoy that you know, tune, and you know, hopefully there'll be a couple of photographs in there just to show you who he was. Many of the younger pipers today will not know who John Mackenzie is. They will never maybe have heard of him. So perhaps through this you'll know a wee bit more about the man, and you'll recognise the face, and indeed you'll learn some of his tunes and enjoy playing them in years to come. So thanks very much for listening, and I've hoped you've enjoyed this series.
Wilson Brown playing two 6/8 marches by John Mackenzie. Tug Argan Gap, I'll tell you the story about it on the noble instrument in a fortnight, and the MacNeils of Ugadale, named for a branch of the clan MacNeil which has held land in Kintyre since the time of King Robert the Bruce.